Good morning, everybody. Welcome to. Oh, shoot. I got to switch the camera around. Let's do that real quick. Let's see. Flip the camera. There we go. Live on YouTube or not YouTube, TikTok, and my Facebook page. What are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about reconciling your past. That's right. Reconciling your past and your present. Are you a guy that is trying to figure out, where are the gaps? Why aren't things being met? I'm not connecting with people. You just have sometimes some angst, some anger that's just kind of stuck inside, and you don't know what's really gonna take care of it. You've been toughing it out, you know. I get you. I do. And when I look at this and when I look at what's actually taken place, I look at, you know, I went through it. 51 years of my life living on this earth, and a lot of it was spent in pain. A lot of it was really just stuck in areas in life that I couldn't I couldn't quite meet what I wanted. I didn't know what I wanted. I didn't know how to really identify with what my true identity is. And not saying that it's talking about my sexual stuff. No, no, I'm talking about a real guy's identity, being a dad, being a man, being a leader, being a worker, being all these hats. We wear a lot of hats every single day. And one thing I will tell you is that every single stage of your life, you're going to have struggles. But sometimes you go so far, you've made so serious amount of efforts, you've done a lot of great things, and you just couldn't quite get past a certain threshold. And that's what we're here to talk about in reconciling with your past to present. And yes, this is a man to man episode. It's going to be on my new YouTube channel. It's going to be a part of my podcast. This episode is being recorded. So right now, I don't know where my tripod is. So whatever. But this whole stage, everything's going to change, but I'm not worried about that. Anyways, getting back to the point, life needs to progress. But sometimes you need to meet where you've been met before, where you've been at, where no matter whether you had good parents or bad parents, you're starting to reconcile with things that you never thought you'd have to deal with before. And for me, I want to help not just other men, but young males and other people to meet the same standards. So that's what we're here to talk about. So in my journey, I grew up. I was raised in California. I was raised primarily by my mom, but my parents were married for a while, and it was a pretty rough go at it. Parents got divorced when I was young, and there was a lot of emptiness, a lot of guidance that was needed. And when you're raised three kids in one home and a single parent, it's a pretty big steep struggle. You're going to go through. I went through a lot of emotional shifts, a lot of loneliness, a lot of misguided behavior, um, so on and so forth. But one thing that I can say is through the struggle, it revealed, or it kind of hardened me. It trained me to be a person that I could be engaged, but I wasn't fully engaged in things. And it wasn't until these last 3 years, especially, there were definitely shifts and there were changes. There were things that I just quite couldn't understand that, um, that I was like, look, I'm not succeeding. I'm just not. I'm not financially wealthy. I'm not playing and doing the role that I want. I had a hard time with honesty. I had a hard time being cool with people, constantly emotionally shifting, being angry at the world. Whenever I think about both my parents, I was just upset all the time, not ever feeling like my voice was ever being heard. So there began the people pleasing phases of life. And it hid under a lot of masks and hats. And one thing I can tell you is it was very painful. And how did I really get to be able to do this? Well, part of the part of the journey, you have to start at I feel you have to kind of start at the worst part, right? Go back 3 years ago, 2022, I believe, Christmas Day. I pick up my daughter Bella in the morning because me and her mom wanted to switch, days, where she was going to spend Christmas, and everything seemed kind of okay, at least in my mind, but it wasn't. I was stressed about getting my partner to my house with my 7-year or my 6-year-old, and we're going to have Christmas here at my mom's house. And I picked up my daughter from her grandparents' house because she'd spent the night over at her grandparents. And there were a few things there was just an odd thing in the air. And the next thing I know is I pick up my daughter and she's like, "Oh, Dad, did you get me my guitar?" And I said, "You're just gonna have to wait and see till you get there." And then she did, and she saw the guitar and she was like, "Oh, it's not a Stratocaster." I'm like, "It's a guitar. I got you electric guitar like you wanted." And I thought I'd ordered a Strat online from Amazon, but it looked like didn't matter. Anyhow, that morning, she was playing with her guitar, she was doing her thing, and then she just kind of got sad, really upset out of nowhere. I didn't see it coming. And the next thing I know, I said, "Are you okay?" And she uh she goes, "I want to go home to mom." And I said, "Well, the family's coming over later. Don't you want to?" "No, I don't." And I'm like, "Well, you spent last night with grandma and grandpa, so you gotta, you we gotta just go with what we got. Okay. You're here for the weekend. No big deal." And it's just like one of those moments, it was tough. And then, a few hours passed by and I said, "You want to see your mom for a while?" And I call her mom, and her mom's like, "No, she can just stay there with you." I kind of found that odd. I was like, that's the only time I ever heard her mom actually refuse. And so what ended up happening was Bella was more upset. And I just was like, okay, I gotta get my girl and get my kid over here, my mom's. And I go and pick them up, come back, and my daughter, as soon as my girlfriend and her sister walk in the door, immediately there was just like despair, upsetness. There was just attitude. And I walk in the door, and my daughter starts giving attitude to me, starts giving attitude to my girl, my mom, even her sister. And I said, "You should just go to your room if you're going to act like this. We don't need you." And I was pissed. I'm trying to make Christmas like something good, right? So what? Fast forward, she goes and she slams the door, and I'm like, I'm already mad. So I go in. I'm like, no one needs to see her attitude. I'll deal with it. Go in her room, close the door behind me. "What's going on with you?" And she just has her head covered, and "I don't want to be with you." And she's been having attitude for probably a couple months of coming over, and she just was not feeling it. And so she wouldn't look at me, grab her shoulder, pull over. "What's going on here? Why? What's going on with me?" And the next thing I know, she's just like, "I want to talk to my mom." Okay. And go and grab my phone, come back in the room, call her mom on her speakerphone. Well, hey, something's going on with her. And the next thing I know, my daughter bursts out, starts screaming over the speakerphone, "He held me down. He's beating me up. I can't be here." And my ex at the time is just going off. I'm going to come pick her up. I'm all, no, we need to talk about this. I called you earlier, and I asked, something's going on here. So it escalates real quick. My ex says, I'm calling the cops in. And I'm just like, what the hell? Call the cops in. I ain't done nothing wrong. My daughter is just screaming profusely. And I open the door. She runs out and makes a big scene in front of my mom and just making a scene in front of others. And I just, I didn't know what to do. And I yelled at her. I didn't get in her face or nothing. I actually was just like, you know, just set from a distance, right? Like probably 8 feet away. I'm like, and I'm yelling, like, you don't know what you just did. You don't know the consequences of your actions. She's crying. And my girl gets in my face. She'll, stop it, Jason. And slap me right in front of my daughter, which I wasn't really expecting that, but it's kind of like, snap out of it, like get a grip. And it was kind of embarrassing. I mean, I'm not going to lie. But what ended up happening was Jacob, if you have a question, just ask. That's what I'll say in TikTok. So just go ahead and ask. Anyways, so I get up and I go for a walk. I just needed to walk it off. I needed to not talk to my daughter. I needed to not talk to anybody. And we've got family coming over my mom's house, more family. Walk off. And the next thing I know, I see my mom taking my daughter in her car over to her mom's house. And I'm like, great. Christmas is screwed. I look like an asshole. And it didn't make any sense, right? And keep in mind, Bella is a wonderful girl, very smart, sweet inside. But she also has a lot of wit. She has a lot of things that she has to work through, and she struggled. Me and her mom did not stick it out. We didn't work it out. And it was like, to me, the worst night that ever happened to me, but it was the beginning for me to start healing. So she goes home to her mom. Cops come out, interview me, and I'm like, explain to him, like, this is what happened. I didn't hurt her. I didn't touch her. Didn't do anything. And it was such a tremendous night. And I didn't want to talk to her mom right away, but I end up like, hey, you know what? Let's just let things kind of lay low. Let's give her some time. It's a traumatic event for all of us. And I'm trying to be like the most amicable dad I can possibly be. And things move forward. And she did not want to like talk to me, want to co-host. I'm sorry, buddy. I don't. No, I'm not going to accept anybody I don't know right now. But anyways, what ends up happening is my daughter accused me of some things that I'm just like, what the hell? I see her. I get to pick her up one day and she's like, I don't want to talk to you. Don't. And we had kind of like sushi and we talked, and what ended up happening was she's like, I don't want to be around you. I just don't. And I was just like blown away. And I'm like, and I let another week go by. And the next thing I know, I get to start bringing her over. Like it'd been like maybe 6 weeks total since Christmas. And I start bringing her back over my house, typical weekends, Friday through Monday. I let her go home on Sunday night to spend with her mom. And she would spend much of the weekend she'd lock herself in the room. She'd come out to eat, talk, whatever. And like the last 2 weeks I got to see her, um, she she'd start opening up, start talking to me. Like she'd come to my room, lay on my bed while I'm working on my computer and want to watch TV, talk to me. Are we going to do anything this weekend? And next thing I know, I'm like, is things getting better or not? It didn't. The next following week, I'm about to go pick her up, and a process server approaches me with emergency orders to um, stop my custody, and based on allegations. So, like a month or two goes by, we go to court. I get an attorney. It's very expensive, and it was like the courts end up finding out like the accusations that I was accused of were false. The CPS end up saying like there was no conclusive evidence of what I was being accused of, no abuse, nothing, right? They made up some false allegations in the police reports, but the court said, you know, we're going to recommend right now, things are still intense. We're going to recommend that you and your daughter go through reconciliation counseling. I was like, okay, well, sure. Whatever's going to make the situation better for her, better for me, whatever it takes. I mean, a real dad does that, and we just know, right? So go and I find a counselor, and I didn't know, but reconciliation counseling, I didn't know there was a specialty. I didn't know anything. And what ended up happening is we both have to go through counseling. And my ex approaches the first session like with a lot of hesitation, and it was horrible. And she's like, she doesn't want to come and meet with him at the same time. Okay, we can split up the session, no problem. And we go through about 3 or 4 sessions, and she just didn't want to see me until the last session. I saw her, and I was walking out, and she's sitting in the waiting room, and I just say hello, hey Bella, and she kind of just like smirked at me. And I knew that was part of my daughter. And it's kind of like it just kind of felt like she was getting caught, you know, like you accuse your dad of some serious shit. And it was horrible. And so I go into the counseling session the next week. She's not there. She doesn't show up. It's mandated by the court. She don't want to go. Mom calls in. I'm not bringing her if she doesn't want to go. Nothing you can do, right? And then the counselor tells me that at this juncture, there's no way I can really treat you both because she doesn't want to be here. I can't force her to do anything. And I'm just like, fuck, seriously, excuse my language. And the next thing I know, go to my attorney. What are we going to do? We go back to court. And the judge again, because my attorney had mentioned like, hey, mom's kind of interfering, doing some stuff. She's not cooperating. Too much influence. I didn't even know what parental alienation was until that next court session. So what ended up happening is that the worst day took steps, and I had a choice. I could have quit counseling right then and there, or I could have continued. maybe I needed some help. I was already going through enough stress in my relationship already. You know, my kid did not want to be around my girlfriend. Did not want to be there at all. She hated her. And there was like jealousy, right? And I understood why, because Bella was not the center of attention. And I had to go through counseling, and the counselor asked me, Jason, I want to really get to know you. I just kind of feel like you're giving me superficial answers. And so I said, sure, why not? And I had to start opening my own internal doors. I had to start like, you know, being real, being honest, which I had a very difficult time because being dishonest in my counseling was just like a protective thing. And I didn't understand what I was doing, but I let her in, and I started letting the finding out the resentment I had in my own past, in my own family, before even Bella existed, finding out where the bad parts of me existed, finding out, like, it's not that I hurt my kid or abused her, but when you're dad, you can't give your kid everything they want, and not having just a place for you too. Bella wanted us to live in a house, just us. And I was not in the position to do that necessarily. COVID's going on, a lot of shit. But through counseling, more things got unraveled and more. And I found out, even though I had said that I kind of like forgive my dad and, all those things, the reality was that I didn't. And I also resented my mom. I resent him everything. The past was catching up to me. It was like choking me, like being like a rear choke, and you just can't breathe. And I was having and the problems they didn't really they didn't go away. They just escalated. And me and my partner escalated too, to the point where we were breaking up. And I was like, I'm losing my kid. I don't get to see her. And then I got another kid, and I'm just like crashing. It was like a hurt, wounded animal stuck in a corner. You just can't go nowhere. Right. And I kept on going through counseling, and I just started admitting the truth. I just started telling the truth. Right. And there was some stuff, right, that we all had to go through. And I started working on that healing work. Right. And that healing work, it just seems like there's more problems, there's more pain, there's more issues. There's just more stuff, right? And you don't know what to do, you don't know what to say, but just open up, be honest, be vulnerable, even though you're getting hurt. I was obliterated, and there was a glimmer of hope for me. And I did take some sacred medicine that started to reveal me. And it was a spiritual journey, recognizing my presence and my past. And it took a year about that kind of therapy. And here I am a year later, well, 2 years later after my daughter's incident, but here I am like a year into like serious therapy. Like, I'm going to see a therapist, and then I'm also seeing a spiritual medicine shaman. I'm doing all that, going through those controversial things, and I was facing my own inner demons. And the medicines revealed something so significant about me that I didn't even know about myself, and didn't even know like what to do about it, but to start doing some real like hearty, deep shadow work. Go into that hole where my needs weren't met as a kid, and as a young man. I had nothing but trauma and relationship issues and identity issues, and it just escalated. But I had to go into that deep hole and rebuild that relationship with God and me. And rebuilding that relationship with God and me over a year of doing that, it really took on a whole new layer of myself. And I got to the point where, like, as of July of this year, the last episode I had with the sacred medicine, and it just said to me, it showed me things like I need to heal my old wounds from when I was in my mom's womb, and it was kind of weird, and I just didn't know what to think of it, and I just got to the point where it's like I surrender. I give up. I give up the pain. I give up the lot, right? And it wasn't until then that I really start understanding what needed to be done, because like all the painful parts were pretty much, the worst parts of it all was like done. It was like, you know, excuse me. Um the worst parts was seeing the aftermath, the seeing the things that I had created, and then also the trends of that was created in me, right? Like, trauma creates a lot more pain in not just yourself but others. But your trauma and your pain was trained by your parents, and so on and so forth. It goes back. I mean, some people talk about generational curses. I mean, don't get me wrong. It exists. It is real, right? And all I wanted was to have my daughters back. All I wanted was to work up and try to be some happy family with my girl. All I wanted was just to live that all-American dream, that happy life, right? So what ended up happening is I started waking up. And I remember in the, let's just call it the sacred dream from the medicine, it showed me where there was a bond severed in my mom's wound. And it showed me, I'm going to heal this, right? We're going to take care of this, and it's going to open you up. Wasn't expecting what that meant. And I come out of it in this last month or so, month and a half. I start realizing like what letting go meant, what forgiveness meant, reconciling with the things that I just kept in my DNA, kept in my person, right? Just kept it all there. And it was like a sense of freedom. Part of my heart was opened, my mind not so cluttered, not in an adrenaline state of being, not in a, like a place that you just couldn't feel like you could go anywhere. And what ended up happening was that I started feeling who I was. And I was like, and all the things that used to make me angry, I blamed my ex, I blamed my family, I blamed so many people for the choices that I made and all that. And it just got to a head where I just had to say, you know what? There's a lot I don't know, but I got to start exploring to find out. And I can't make any more stories up. I can't live a life that's not my life. It's not the way. That's not the truth. And so the more that I sat with myself, more I started taking time. Stop getting in bickerment, stop getting in arguments, stop like trying to be the badass. Like every guy out there pretty much has that part of him that wants to be like, look, we got to be a badass. We got to be the strong guy. We can't like let our guard down for a minute, right? So when I got to that point where I'm just like, I surrender. I surrender all the bad things I've done to people, and I surrender all the bad things that were ever done to me. And I love all these people, right? It was like a super emotional experience. It's like guys don't talk about this stuff. But I had to break in. I needed a heartbreak, and I needed a soul break in. I needed a transplant of all this disgust and just ugliness. I needed it to be cleansed. And the cleansing didn't necessarily come like just because I did a ceremony, right? The cleansing is still going on even now. But even I notice now things that would make me mad typically before, they don't bother me as much. I keep it to myself. I'm able to put a lot of these stoic lessons that I talk about in my daily walk 30. And what ends up happening is that I I feel those lessons, those ancient words from mentors from ages ago. And the more that I let go, the more opportunity comes in, and the more that I get opened up. And I used to go to sleep every single night in terror, in stress. My diabetes would be out of control. My blood sugar would be like 500, 450. I think the worst I ever got to was 600. Then my doctor told me one day, he was like, your A1C is 10.8. I got to put you on insulin. If you don't, you're going to die. That's what he said. He's just really candid with me. Just said it. There's nothing else I can do. I gave you metformin. I gave you glyburide. But your diet sucks. The results show. Your stress is. We got to do an overhaul, Jason. And I said, just give me one more chance. And so he readjusted my meds, gave me something that would work better for my heart because I was having heart issues. All that stress, right? And since over this year in July, I kind of found like a way out. And that way out was so simple right there in your face. It was just like right there. Like you couldn't mistake in what was there. And the sacred voices, God talking to me, my girl talking to me, opening up, telling me that I'm easier to deal with. And she felt sorry for me, right? So give me a second. But yeah, she was very angry with me, very bitter, very hurt in her own way. And she saw I was suffering. But the suffering started to leave my mind and my body because you had to let go, right? I had to like just say screw it. Because there ain't no amount of hurt that's gonna compensate. There's no justice ever gonna be made. There's no nada, like for real. And there hasn't been a night or a day that I don't think about my other two daughters, Lena and Bella. because I have three girls. And my oldest, she's a grown woman, you know, and she's off doing her own thing. And I just hope the best for her. So anyway, I start realizing that the only way to get a better relationship, not just with my girl, but my kids and even my friends, like I postured a lot, no doubt about that, and bullshit a lot. Even some of a lot of my podcasts were just BS. It was just like rage and anger. And I could see it. And I watch those old episodes even now. And I'm just like, man, I know that young guy. He needs he needs a lot of love. He needs compassion, but he also has to do a lot of work and internal work, right? And so for you guys out there that are not getting your needs met and you're complaining to whoever, doesn't matter who it is, you got to stop the first part. And I know it's going to be hard, but I'm going to tell you the first real step is recognizing that you have an issue with your past that infects your present. And a lot of people do. This isn't exclusive to just men. There are a lot of women out there too who are bitter, who are angry, who do not get why they are not getting met. Like there are a lot of dudes who do not know how to identify with their kids emotionally. Like we go out and we work sometimes 10, 12 hours a day and we're beat to dirt. And let alone, and you think by having a kid that they're gonna just love you automatically because you're the provider. Well, guess what? No, not so fast. In order for them to have that, you've got to be attached to them and they got to be attached to you. That's a fact. And so, long story made short, you know, I started healing, I started accepting, I started letting go of what did not belong to me, and that was the anger, the ego, and the BS, right? And when I started letting that stuff go, and I didn't know what let go meant until until after that admittance, until that submission, like, look, God, I give this all to you, man. And I didn't have a relationship with God for a long time. I did. I walked away from him. I walked away from all religion. I was like, I'm done with Christianity. I'm done trying to find God through organizations. I'm done with all that BS, right? I'm not down for that. I'm not down to feel more miserable, right? So what I did is I got back to my roots, and by surrendering and just letting go, the water, the sacred water of God or whatever, life just started coming into me, being poured into me. It started just cleaning out my wounds. And the more that I started cleaning out my wounds from ages ago, then I felt like there was a rim of hope. And then, you know, I found out my ex died May 9th, which happened to be my best friend's birthday. And I found out through a social media post that my daughter had posted and one of the relatives just sent to me, and I just didn't know what to do. Whole new thing. And I felt like I tried to reach out and my number was blocked, and tried to reach out to the grandparents, and they don't know what to do. They're just out to protect her. And I don't blame them, but a lot of misinformation, that's for sure. And just they're hurt. They just lost their daughter. And what was weird is their daughter had died of cancer. And I didn't see that coming. I don't even think they knew. It was like a month and what? So here I am, going through this healing journey. All this chaos is going all around. And while chaos is going on, I'm just being humbled. I'm like, beginning to understand what surrender and forgiveness means, beginning to understand what gratitude means, beginning to understand like a lot of things that as men we don't talk about. For real, we do not talk about it unless we're hurt ourselves. We want someone to kind of like come along with it, like a good mom, like or whatever. Hey, it's gonna be all right. But there's a lot of loneliness in the healing. And when you start making yourself stronger, people start changing around you. And so, long story made short, my life started clearing up. And what ended up happening was I felt like these inner voices needed to talk to me. And I wrote my daughter last night, I wrote her an email because I still had her email. And I said, "Hey, I'm sorry that you lost your mom. I'm sorry that you know, I wasn't a better dad when you were coming over. And I'm sorry for I need to be really honest with you and be really compassionate." And it was like kind of like letting her know, like send out a signal. I just felt like this internal system, like just telling me, "Hey, Jason, write her by today." Had to be yesterday, right? I don't know why. It just did. And I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I wrote an email and I got a response. Don't contact me. I don't want nothing to do with you. I'm better off without you. I have people who really support me. And then it was weird as she put her mom's last name and she sent the email twice. First she replaced her last name, which is my last name, and then she replaced it with her mom's, and then did it again, and then put her mom's marital last name, which was her husband and her mom's last name combined. I'm just like, this is definitely hurt. And it hurt reading those words. Your kid don't want to be around you. They're 17 years old. They're going to be 17, 16. There's a lot of confusion going on. But what I can tell you is that even though I'm getting the objections, I don't understand everything that's going on. I'm just thinking like, why can't my kid love me the way that I love her? Changed her diapers, did everything, been to the hospital with her, supported her in her tears when her and her mom would fight, like everything, right? Like what a dad's supposed to do? Sacrifice my last penny so that she would have great birthdays and Christmases. We walked a lot of lonely journeys, me and her. No doubt about that. And so you're like, you give all this effort to your kid and they hit teenagehood and they just get that light bulb in their head. And it's like, look, I'm not really being supported as much as I deserve. And I got a mom and a stepdad at home, and the one thing I was remembering about her was like there was lots of back and forth. Like she would tell me what her mom's doing wrong. I would hear about one particular incident where mom and stepdad got in a fight. Allegedly, there was a gun pulled. My daughter stays with me for a week. And I'm just like, you know what? Couples have tiffs, and you just go through all these steps to be there for your kid. And then when they turn on you because they reconcile, you're the enemy. You got to take all the stuff and then manage your own life. And you can't say much. Legally, I couldn't say much. I just couldn't. My attorney said, don't say shit. Keep your posts to a minimum. Don't talk about your kid whatsoever. And it was like, who do I talk to? I can't talk to my girl about it because every time I talk to my girl, at the time, all I would hear is what I did to her, how I hurt her. That's all I heard. Hurt, hurt, hurt everywhere. Hurt people, hurt other people. Kind of like an ugly sense of revenge, right? And what I can tell you is it doesn't seem like it makes any sense, right? It just doesn't. But through that release, through going through those metaphysical states, reconciliation with my past that was ingrained in my body and ingrained in my mind and my soul. It was just like, man, let me tell you, it was something else. And the more that I let the cleansing happen, the more life starts to get better, right? And so I just, oh man, even still thinking to this day, my relationship had in the last, I would say 60 days almost, has gotten 150% better, especially with my girl and my 6-year-old. Daddy was being more present. I was able to listen without responding just so easy. And even the stuff that I really found insulting, the things that I couldn't quite understand, it's like you just recognize like the aftermath, right? And that aftermath, basically said, now that the worst part is over with, right? Now the worst part is over with as far as the past pain. Now I know I have a roadmap or what it's like to feel like to heal. What does that mean? So that you can go on with your life and act and be a better person and not recommit the offenses or the things that you did, right? So I got to that point, and every day I practice of just letting go, being open, being honest with myself, being honest with my partner, being honest with my parents, letting go of the trials and tribulations that I already experienced, and just letting the natural water of life just mend my own wounds. And so letting go was letting in. It's like washing you off with dirt. You know how like you take a really good shower and you just feel like, oh, it's so great, right? You feel so good when you feel like you could actually forgive and let go. And when you got that cleanse, right? You got that part of you that allows you to be the person you really feel you are inside, not hiding, not secret agendas and shit like that, not hiding from what consequence you're afraid of facing. You just feel good, right? And every guy knows this. Just like, if we can be honest, no matter what the circumstances are, then we definitely have a chance at life. We definitely have a chance of success, because one thing that will guarantee you success is when you don't let the the bad integrations, like the strings, like a puppet, like, oh, if I say that, this string is going to be pulled and I'm going to be hurt. Once you let go and you cut those strings and you stop putting expectations on people, things, even your own kids, when you let that go, guess what happens? Life starts opening up. You got to reconcile with the past, but say, you know what? You were there. I'm learning from there, and I'm going to be here. And going to be here allows me to be more subtle, more just like reserved in the right places, right? And so what I would do and what I've been doing is practicing my patience, not letting my worry turn into anxiety and let it turn into torment, because all that stuff makes your diabetes worse, makes your mental state of being worse, makes your sleep be non-existent. Your body just goes to garbage, right? So to begin, how to get to that place, right? How to get to a place where you really can feel like I'm getting somewhere, right? You have to basically in a strong sense, you got to be willing to let go even though it hurts. And there is a thing where people like to resuffer over and over again. They have a they have a what do you call it? Rumination. There's this wonderful book called Indistractable by Near Ale. Matter of fact, I have it. Let's see. This book right here, Indistractable, really was like to talk about like how to oh wait, here, see it showed on YouTube. There we go. Yeah, this book right here. It basically showed how where your trauma gets trained, how to make it live again, how to, and what rumination is just like you relive the traumatic experience and you tell the same story, and you just you don't see a way out. You don't get anything, right? You're stuck. Essentially, you are stuck. And the only way to break that trauma is to get to the breaking point, to rock bottom. I think that's where I really could understand with what addicts go through, so to speak. And, and going through the 12-step process, reconciling, meeting like how things are. Oh, shoot, what happened? I don't know why my mouse is moving. Cancel. There we go. Anyways, um, the more that I let in, my perspective started changing. How could I be accommodating without compromising, right? That's the number one enemy to a nice guy. And if you don't know what a nice guy is, go look up Dr. Robert Glover's No More Mr. Nice Guy. Nice Ghost Syndrome is a real freaking thing. And you know, the more that you reconcile with like what's going on in your past and how it's infecting you now to create your attitude and that rumination where it's retraining your thoughts, your story over and over and over again, right? Where that stuff gets stopped. And there was this thing my partner sent me on she sent me somebody's what do you call it? Hold on. Let me mute up the post. And that's where I began to understand. It hit me just in the right way. It basically said, never underestimate a cycle breaker. Not only did you face your years of generational trauma, but they stood in the face that trauma and said, this ends with me, and this is brave. This is powerful. This comes at a significant cost. Never underestimate a cycle breaker. Well, Bella, I commend you for being a cycle breaker. And that cycle for me is also breaking. And by taking the steps of forgiveness, taking to forgive myself, I can be a better person. And whatever capacity that is to those people I love, that I've hurt, that I've let down, and also the people that I helped along the way, guess what? You just get better and better. So reconciliation has to come from the heart, not the mind. The heart has to get into a loving, proactive action, mindful state. And when you do that, guess what? Life gets better. And like enjoy, right? You really got to get down with the dirty sometimes. And then you get to clean off. So that's part of my story. And it was very real and very personal. And it could bite me in the ass. It really could, just by even me telling it. But I really don't give a damn. Because you know what? just like in Pinocchio, you got no strings on me, man. You got no strings. I'm going to be free. I'm going to make a big difference. I'm going to be loving, caring, empathetic, character strong, and I'm going to live out the best years I have left in this world. And that's the important thing, is that when you let go of all the BS, you let go of all those things that don't quite work for you, and you just say, yeah, man, I'm ready to heal. Healing's here, man. And you ever like get like hurt, like you fall off your bike and you get some road rash or something like that, like a really nasty cut and some dirt got in there. The most painful parts sometimes have to be scrubbed out. And when you get to that level, as it's scraping out, the mending of the wounds get reestablished. The mending starts taking. It doesn't mean that, like, if you get a scar, it's a scar, but scars don't really hurt. They don't anymore. And what I can tell you is that through letting go, learning forgiveness, being opened up, being available to Mother Earth and God and active lifestyle and just getting out of your comfort zone. I think that's the biggest part, is if you want to reconcile with your past and be better at your present, just be down to get like, hey, whatever it takes, because that's where I'm at. And just say, I let go. I surrender, man. Whatever I need to learn, I am willing to learn. Everything that has happened happens for me and not against me. People say that all the time, but when you know it and you feel it, then you're good, right? And that's where I'm gonna have an episode 2 of this, and not just talk about my past, but I'm gonna tell you about methods in the next live post about this. I'm gonna tell you about how you take daily steps of reconciling, mending, forgiving, healing, all that great stuff. So we're going to talk about that. I'm not an expert. I'm not a coach. I'm not none of that. I'm just Jason Barajas. I'm going to get back into making podcasts. I'm making liveliness. I'm making my life happen. And I don't have the strings anymore to keep me down. You just got to, keep going. So anyways, that's pretty much it. Well, if you've enjoyed my live, tune into more of my lives. I do the hashtag daily walk 30 posts. I got one I got to do today. So we're going to talk about, yesterday I talked about past demons on my TikTok, and we're going to talk more about the upgrades coming. So anyhow, that's all the time that I have for this live YouTube and podcast. And if you want to check me out, check out me Man to Man Voices and Stories. It's going to be posted on the channel. I've got to get clearance from YouTube. So, and I'll also put that up for Apple Podcast. So if you want to check me out, I'm definitely going to be available. But that's all I got for today. So anyhow, I just want to say thank you all for checking me out, and we'll see y'all next time. Y'all take care.